In the vastness between realms, where the threads of fate intertwine and the impossible becomes merely improbable, there exist moments when worlds collide. Such moments are rare, cosmic anomalies that shake the very foundations of existence. This is the tale of one such moment. The lands between had known many champions, many would-be lords who sought to mend or remake the Elden Ring, tarnished souls drawn to the call of lost grace, warriors seeking glory, kings seeking power. All had walked these blighted lands, but none like the one who came today. It began with a distortion in the amber skies above Limgrave. The clouds parted in spirals, an unnatural wind howling through ancient ruins, as reality itself seemed to tear. From this cosmic wound descended not a meteor of glintstone or a dragon of legend, but a small wooden pod, ancient and weathered by countless journeys across stars unknown. The pod crashed near the stranded graveyard, sending tremors through the earth that caused even the tree sentinel to pause his eternal vigilance. Smoke and dust billowed from the impact site, obscuring the small figure that emerged from the wreckage. 900 years of age was this visitor, with skin like weathered sage and ears that stretched outward like the wings of a great bird. Small in stature but immense in presence, he stood among the tall grasses of Limgrave, his ancient eyes taking in the shattered world before him. Strong, the force is here, different yet familiar. Clouded by pain, this world is. Yoda, Grandmaster of the Jedi Order, last of his kind, touched the soil of the lands between with his three-fingered hand. Through the force, he felt the anguish of this realm, the shattered ring, the abandoned grace, the endless cycle of death without true ending. The old Jedi closed his eyes, reaching out through the force. In this strange land, the force flowed differently, intertwined with something the inhabitants called grace. It surrounded all things, binding them together much like the force he knew, yet twisted by conflict and despair. A gentle wind carried the scent of decay and rebirth, of blood and blossoms. Nearby, the ruins of a church stood as testament to forgotten faith, and beyond, towering over all, the Erdtree gleamed with golden light, branches reaching toward heavens that had long since abandoned this realm. The path forward, unclear it is, Yoda murmured, leaning on his Geimer stick. But where clarity is lacking, patience must prevail. As if in answer, the ground began to shake. From the earth emerged skeletons, their bones held together by ancient magics, their hollow eye sockets fixed upon the diminutive stranger. They circled Yoda, rusted weapons raised, moving with a jerky, unnatural gait. Yoda remained still, observing these curious manifestations of death. In his long life, he had witnessed many forms of darkness, many perversions of natural order. These walking bones were but another expression of fear's hold over life and death. "Rest, you should," Yoda said softly. "Peace, you deserve." The skeletons lunged forward, and the ancient Jedi Master sighed. With a subtle gesture, he reached out through the force. The skeletons froze mid-stride, their weapons inches from the Green Master. Then, with a gentle wave of his three-fingered hand, the undead warriors were pushed back, bones separating and collapsing into piles of dust. "Violence, always the first greeting is," Yoda remarked sadly, continuing his journey forward. As dawn broke over the lands between, word of the strange visitor spread. A diminutive green creature wielding unseen power, speaking in riddles, showing neither fear of death nor desire for runes. Some whispered he was a forgotten demigod. Others claimed him to be an omen child, blessed rather than cursed. Few suspected the truth, that he came from beyond the stars, beyond the reach of even the greater will. Yoda's path took him to the Church of Ela, where he found a merchant cloaked in red, surrounded by wares both practical and curious. "Well now, a customer, or perhaps something else entirely?" Calais watched the small green figure approach with cautious interest. "You're not tarnished, that much is certain. Nor are you of the Golden Order. What manner of being comes to my humble church?" "A traveler only I am," Yoda replied, inspecting the merchant's curious items. "This broken world, tell me of it, you will?" Calais laughed, a sound rarely heard in these lands. "Straight to the point, aren't you? Very well, you stand in the lands between, a realm once blessed by the greater will and the Elden Ring. Now it is a land of death and madness, where demigods war over fragments of power, and the Tarnished return to claim what was lost." The merchant studied his unusual visitor. "But you carry no weapons, wear no armor. How have you survived thus far?" Yoda smiled enigmatically. "Need weapons, I do not. The Force, my ally, it is." "The Force?" Calais raised an eyebrow. I've heard of many powers, the fundamentals of incantations, the principles of glintstone sorcery, even the forbidden magics of those who live in death, but never this force. Before Yoda could respond, the ground trembled. The thundering hooves of the tree sentinel approached, drawn by reports of an unusual intruder. Golden armor gleaming in the sunlight, the massive warrior atop his armored steed circled the church, lance at the ready. Ah, Calais sighed. It seems the Golden Order has taken notice of you, little one. The tree sentinel suffers no anomalies in his domain. I suggest you run, though I doubt it will avail you much. Yoda turned slowly, facing the mounted knight whose armor shone like a second sun. The sentinel's helmet betrayed no emotion, but his posture conveyed all the arrogance of absolute certainty, a certainty Yoda had seen in too many who believed might made right. Size matters not, Yoda said quietly, stepping forward to meet the guardian. Judge me by my size, do you? The tree sentinel answered by charging, his massive lance aimed directly at the diminutive Jedi Master. The earth shook beneath the weight of horse and rider, a golden blur of righteous violence bearing down on the seemingly defenseless visitor. Calais closed his eyes, unwilling to witness the inevitable slaughter. When the expected sound of impact never came, he dared to look again. The tree sentinel hung suspended in air, horse and rider frozen mid-charge, several feet off the ground. Yoda stood below, one hand raised, his concentration evident in his furrowed brow. With deliberate gentleness, the Jedi Master set the warrior down and stepped forward. Fight you, I will not, Yoda declared. Enemies, we need not be. The tree sentinel's response was to dismount and draw his massive golden halberd, the weapon humming with sacred power. This time he approached more cautiously, wary of the strange magic the small creature commanded. So be it, Yoda sighed. What followed was unlike any battle the lands between had witnessed. The tree sentinel's attacks met only air as Yoda leapt and spun with impossible agility. His movements defying his apparent age and stature, the Jedi Master vaulted over the sentinel's head, rebounded off his shield, and danced between sweeping strikes of the golden halberd. Yet through it all, Yoda never once struck back. He simply avoided, redirected, and occasionally used the force to push the sentinel off balance. Anger clouds your judgment, Yoda observed, perched momentarily atop the sentinel's halberd. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Much suffering in this world already, there is. With a roar of frustration, the tree sentinel summoned divine power into his weapon, golden light erupting from the blade. He brought it down with all his might, only for the blade to stop inches from Yoda's raised hand. Enough, this is, Yoda said, his voice gentle but firm. With a sweeping gesture, the tree sentinel's weapon was pulled from his grasp and dismantled piece by piece, the components floating in a circle around the astonished warrior. Then, just as gently, they reassembled and returned to the sentinel's hands. Defend your purpose is. Understand this I do, but wisdom in knowing when not to fight there is. The tree sentinel stood motionless, perhaps for the first time in centuries, considering something beyond his sworn duty. After a long moment, he sheathed his weapon, mounted his steed, and rode away without a backward glance. Calais emerged from the church, eyes wide with disbelief. In all my years, the sentinels serve only the Golden Order, yet you turned him away without bloodshed. What are you? Yoda, my name is, the Jedi Master replied simply. A Jedi I am, or was, perhaps still am, uncertain all things have become. As word of the encounter spread, others began to seek out this strange visitor. First came a maiden in blue, her eyes hidden behind a blindfold, her purpose clear in her posture. Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog, Melina said, approaching Yoda at the gatefront ruins. I've heard tales of your coming. They say you wield power unlike any seen in the lands between, yet you seek no throne, claim no great runes. Thrones and power little interest to me they hold, Yoda replied, sitting cross-legged amid the ruins. Knowledge and understanding my purpose is. Melina smiled faintly. Then perhaps we can help one another. I seek a Tarnished who might become Elden Lord and bring order to these shattered lands. You seek understanding of a world not your own. I can guide you, show you the true nature of the lands between. A fair offer, that is, Yoda nodded. But tell me, young one, why order through lordship seek you? Many lords this land has had. Peace they brought not. Melina's smile faded. What alternative exists? The shattering left us with only fragments of what once was. The demigods war eternally over scraps of power. The Golden Order is corruption, masked as righteousness. Someone must unite the ring and end this cycle of suffering. Yoda closed his eyes, meditating on her words. In my world also, cycles of power and destruction we faced. Always the answer, a new master was not. Before they could continue their discussion, a roar echoed across the ruins. From the sky descended a beast with countless wings and eyes, its form so alien that reality itself seemed to warp around it. "A servant of the frenzied flame," Melina whispered, stepping back. "It seeks to unmake everything." The creature landed before them, madness incarnate, its very presence causing stones to crack and plants to wither. It fixed its many eyes upon Yoda, perhaps sensing something both foreign and familiar in the Jedi Master's connection to the Force. "May chaos take the world!" it shrieked in a voice like shattering glass. "May chaos take the world!" Yoda rose slowly, facing this manifestation of disorder with characteristic calm. Chaos and order, two sides of the same coin they are, neither can exist without the other. The creature lunged, tentacles of flame extending from its body. Yoda did not retreat. Instead, he extended his consciousness through the Force, touching the fractured mind within the monstrous form. Where others would have seen only madness to be destroyed, Yoda perceived pain to be healed. "Pain I feel in you," Yoda said softly, "suffering beyond measure. Rest now, you must." The Jedi Master raised both hands, channeling the Force not as a weapon, but as a balm. The creature froze, its many eyes widening in what might have been shock or recognition. Slowly the flames dimmed, the extra appendages withdrawn, until before them stood not a monster, but a humanoid figure, trembling and confused. "The frenzied flame, it speaks still, but quieter now," the figure whispered, looking at its own hands in wonder. "How?" "Balance all things seek," Yoda explained. "Even in madness, a center exists. Found yours, I have. Keep it, you must." Melina watched in astonishment as the former servant of chaos bowed to Yoda and departed, moving with new purpose toward the horizon. "What you just did, it should be impossible," she said when she finally found her voice. "The frenzied flame corrupts absolutely. There is no cure, no redemption for those it claims." "Impossible nothing is," Yoda replied. "Only our beliefs limit us. Now, of this Elden Ring, more you will tell me. Understand this world better, I must, if help I am to provide." As sunset painted the skies of Limgrave in hues of amber and gold, the diminutive Jedi Master and the mysterious maiden sat amid ancient ruins, sharing knowledge of worlds divided by stars, yet united by suffering. And across the lands between, word continued to spread of the strange green master who turned away the tree sentinel, who calmed the flames of chaos, who spoke of a power neither sorcery nor incantation. In Stormvale Castle, Godric the Grafted heard these rumors, and clutched his many stolen arms closer to his body, suddenly fearful of judgment from beyond the stars. In Raya Lucaria, the sorcerers debated the nature of this new power that seemed to defy their fundamental laws. And in the Round Table Hold, the Tarnished gathered to discuss what this visitor might mean for their own quests to become Elden Lord. The lands between had known many champions, but none had challenged its fundamental nature the way this small, ancient being already had. And Yoda's journey had only just begun. The grand Erdtree loomed above, its golden branches cast in shadow as storm clouds gathered around its crown. 9 days had passed since Yoda's arrival in the lands between, 9 days of wandering, observing, and contemplating the nature of this broken realm. The diminutive Jedi Master sat cross-legged atop a weathered cliff overlooking the Academy of Raya Lucaria, his eyes closed in meditation, his presence in the Force barely a whisper against the roaring cacophony of suffering that pervaded this world. "Fascinating this place is," Yoda murmured to himself. "Connected, all things are, yet fractured the connections have become." He had spent his first days exploring the immediate surroundings of Limgrave, encountering its denizens with cautious curiosity. Most creatures attacked on sight, driven mad by the shattering and the subsequent wars. Yoda had defended himself when necessary, using the Force to repel attackers or his lightsaber to cut through those too corrupted to be reasoned with. But he took no pleasure in violence and sought whenever possible to simply pass unseen. The tree sentinel who had initially confronted him had become something of an unlikely companion. After their battle ended in stalemate, the mounted knight had followed Yoda at a distance, observing the strange green visitor with suspicion that gradually gave way to curiosity. Now, the golden-armored guardian waited at the base of the cliff, his halberd planted in the earth, standing sentinel as Yoda meditated. In his exploration, Yoda had encountered various Tarnished, spoken with a merchant or two, and even had a lengthy conversation with the strange maiden Melina when she appeared to him at a site of grace. All of them seemed to share the same belief. that the Elden Ring must be restored, and a new Elden Lord crowned. Yet Yoda sensed something amiss in this seemingly straightforward quest. "The Elden Ring," Yoda said, opening his eyes as he addressed the tree sentinel below. "A tool of order it is, but whose order, I wonder, and at what cost maintained?" The tree sentinel offered no response, but Yoda had not expected one. The knight served the Erdtree and its golden order without question, but Yoda had spent centuries questioning, teaching others to question, to seek understanding beyond dogma. He rose from his meditation and made his way down the cliff face, using the Force to guide his descent in graceful leaps that belied his apparent age and frailty. "To Leyndell we must go," Yoda announced to the tree sentinel. "Answers await us there, I believe." The knight tilted his helmeted head, as if considering, then mounted his armored steed. Not for the first time, Yoda wondered at the strange bond between them. No words had been exchanged, yet understanding had grown. Perhaps in this knight, Yoda recognized something familiar, devotion to an order greater than oneself, an unwavering sense of duty. Yet, unlike the Jedi Order, the Golden Order of this realm seemed fundamentally flawed, built upon secrets and suffering. The journey to the capital was fraught with dangers. Across the lakes of Liurnia they traveled, through the mists of the Altus Plateau, and along ancient roads guarded by abominations that defied comprehension. Yoda moved with the quiet efficiency of one who had survived countless wars, his lightsaber a green blur when necessary, his command of the Force a subtle but irresistible tide that pushed dangers aside. At Yoda's side, the tree sentinel proved a stalwart companion, his halberd cleaving through enemies with precision born of centuries of discipline. Together they formed an unlikely but effective pair, the diminutive alien and the towering knight. As they neared the outskirts of Leyndell, they encountered a figure in golden armor, more ornate than the tree sentinels. A Leyndell knight stood barring the path, his posture radiating hostility. "Halt!" commanded the knight. "The capital is closed to Tarnished, and outsiders alike, by decree of Sir Gideon Ofnir." Yoda stepped forward, his clawed hand raised in a peaceful gesture. "Come to speak with your leaders, I have. Important matters to discuss. The words of a strange creature hold no weight here," the knight replied, drawing his sword. "Turn back or be cut down where you stand." The tree sentinel moved his mount forward, placing himself between Yoda and the Leyndell knight. It was a clear statement of allegiance that seemed to surprise the capital's guardian. "You betray your oath to the Erdtree?" the knight asked. Incredulous. "Betray nothing, he does," Yoda interjected. "Protect what the Erdtree truly stands for, perhaps he wishes. Clarity, perspective, lacking in your golden order, these things may be." The Leyndell knight's response was to charge, his golden blade arcing toward Yoda with deadly intent. The Jedi Master sighed softly, then raised his hand. The knight froze mid-stride, his weapon trembling in the air as he struggled against an invisible force. "Violence unnecessary it is," Yoda said calmly. "Sleep now, you will." The knight's armored form went limp, gently lowered to the ground by Yoda's command of the Force. The tree sentinel looked down at the Jedi Master, and though his face remained hidden behind his helmet, his posture suggested newfound respect. "Different paths to the same destination there often are," Yoda explained. "Kill when we must not. Wisdom dictates restraint." They continued toward the great walls of Leyndell, golden and imposing against the darkening sky. But rather than approach the main gate, Yoda directed them to a less traveled path that wound up through crumbling fortifications and abandoned outposts. "Sense someone important, I do," Yoda explained. "A presence in the Force, familiar yet strange, connected to the fate of this world, they are." In a tower at the edge of Leyndell, overlooking the vast expanse of the Altus Plateau, Ranni the Witch felt a disturbance in the patterns of magic that wove through the lands between. Something or someone had entered this realm from beyond, bringing with them power unlike any she had encountered before. Her spectral form shimmered in the moonlight as she gazed out across the land. Her plans had been laid carefully over centuries, her rebellion against the greater will meticulously orchestrated. Now an unknown variable had been introduced, and Ranni was not one to leave such things to chance. "Blade," she called softly, and from the shadows emerged her loyal wolf knight. "There is a stranger in the lands between, one not born of this world nor bound by its laws. Find this being and determine whether they represent threat or opportunity to our cause." Blade bowed his lupine head. "As you wish, my lady. What manner of creature do I seek?" Ranni's porcelain face remained impassive, but her voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. "Something small in stature, but immense in power. Something ancient and wise. Something that walks between worlds as easily as we walk between rooms." And if they oppose your designs? Blade asked, hand resting on the hilt of his greatsword. Rani was silent for a moment. Do not engage rashly. Observe, report. This being, I sense they may understand more about the true nature of the Order than even I. As Blade departed on his mission, Rani turned her attention to the distant Erdtree. What new actor takes the stage in this cosmic drama, she wondered aloud, and whose script do they follow? Yoda and the Tree Sentinel had made camp in the ruins of an old watchtower just beyond the outer walls of Lendel. Night had fallen, and Yoda sat by a small fire, its light casting long shadows across ancient stones worn smooth by time and war. Understand, I begin to, Yoda said, more to himself than to his silent companion. A prison this world has become, a beautiful prison, but a prison nonetheless. The Tree Sentinels stood at the edge of their camp, vigilant as ever, but Yoda sensed the night was listening. The Force, it flows here, but constrained it is. Directed, controlled, manipulated by entities beyond mortal understanding, the greater will, they call it, the Erdtree, its physical manifestation, but something deeper exists, yes, something older. Yoda closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses, feeling the currents of power that flowed through this land. The Force here was different from what he knew, not divided simply between light and dark, but fractured into numerous aspects, each claiming dominion over different facets of existence. Multiple wills there are, Yoda continued his musing, competing for dominance, the greater will, the frenzied flame, the formless mother. Gods or merely powerful beings? Difficult to say, but imprisoned the people of this world they have. Choice denied them. True balance impossible under such conditions. A twig snapped in the darkness beyond their camp, and Yoda opened his eyes. The Tree Sentinel had already turned toward the sound, halberd raised defensively. Show yourself, you should, Yoda called out calmly. Harm you we will not, unless harm you intend. From the shadows emerged a towering figure, half man, half wolf, clad in armor that gleamed in the firelight. A massive great sword hung from his back, but his hands were empty, held open at his sides. I am Blade, Shadow of Rani, the wolf knight announced, his voice a low growl. And I come seeking the one who arrived from beyond the stars. Yoda nodded, gesturing to the fire. Found him you have? Join us, if peaceful conversation you seek. Blade approached cautiously, his yellow eyes never leaving the Tree Sentinel, who remained poised for battle. The tension between the two knights was palpable, one serving the Erdtree, the other loyal to a witch who sought to overthrow the very order the Erdtree represented. My lady Rani wishes to know your purpose in the lands between, Blade said, remaining standing despite Yoda's invitation to sit. Are you Tarnished, Empyrean, or something else entirely? Something else I am, Yoda replied simply, a Jedi Master from a galaxy far from here, brought to this world by forces unknown for reasons yet to be revealed. And what do you seek, Jedi Master? Yoda smiled slightly. Understanding, firstly, then perhaps a way to help. Suffering greatly this world is. Feel it in the Force, I do. Blade's eyes narrowed. The Force? Is that what you call your magic? Not magic, Yoda corrected gently. The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Different here, it feels, but present nonetheless. And whose side do you take in our conflicts? Blade pressed. Do you serve the greater will? Do you seek to become Elden Lord? Yoda shook his head. Sides I do not take lightly. Information I require. Your Lady Rani, against the greater will she stands. Yes? Why? Blade hesitated, clearly weighing how much to reveal. Finally he spoke, his voice lower. Rani seeks to free the lands between from the tyranny of the greater will, to usher in an age of stars where the destiny of this world is returned to its inhabitants. Noble goal this sounds, Yoda acknowledged. But methods matter, they do. Ends justify means, they do not always. For the first time, the Tree Sentinel shifted, the metal of his armor creaking slightly. Both Yoda and Bled glanced at him, sensing his discomfort at this talk of rebellion against the order he was sworn to protect. Friend, Yoda addressed the Golden Knight, question your beliefs. I do not ask, but open your mind to possibility, I suggest. Serve the Erdtree faithfully you have, but serve the people of this land, has the Erdtree? The Tree Sentinel remained motionless, but Yoda could sense conflict within him, a warrior beginning to question the cause to which he had devoted centuries. Blade watched this exchange with interest. My lady believed you might understand the true nature of our world's plight, he said to Yoda. She requests your presence at her rise to discuss matters of mutual concern. And where might I find this lady of yours? Yoda asked. Rani's rise in the Three Sisters region beyond Carrier Manor, Blade replied. A journey fraught with danger, but I would guide you there. The tree sentinel stepped forward, the message clear. Where Yoda went, he would follow. Yoda nodded thoughtfully. Meet your lady I shall, but first to Leyndell I must go. Answers seek I there, about the nature of the Elden Ring itself. Blade's fur bristled. The capital is no place for those who question the Golden Order. Death awaits all who challenge the sovereignty of the Two Fingers. Death, an old companion of mine it is, Yoda said with a slight smile. Fear it, I do not. The following day found them at the main gate of Leyndell royal capital. Massive and ornate, the golden doors stood closed, guarded by knights and mechanical constructs that patrolled with tireless vigilance. A direct approach, unwise it would be, Yoda observed, surveying the defenses from a concealed position on a nearby ridge. Another way in we must find. Blade pointed to a section of the outer wall where the stonework had partially collapsed. There, but it is watched by a fell omen, a creature of terrible power. Yoda studied the breach, sensing the malevolent presence that lurked there. Confront this omen we must, if passage we seek. They made their way carefully down the ridge and approached the damaged section of wall. As they drew near, a massive figure rose from amid the rubble. Humanoid but grotesquely malformed, covered in horns and vestigial limbs, wielding a blade longer than Yoda was tall. The creature roared, a sound of primal hatred and pain that echoed across the plateau. The tree sentinel immediately moved to engage, but Yoda raised a hand to halt him. Wait, the Jedi Master commanded softly. Since I do great suffering in this being, corrupted by forces beyond its control it has been. Yoda stepped forward, alone, facing the towering omen. The creature hesitated, seemingly confused by the tiny green figure that approached without fear. Pain I feel in you, Yoda said, his voice gentle but carrying clearly to the omen. Rejected, feared, imprisoned you have been, for what? The circumstances of your birth, the markings on your body, justice, this is not. The omen growled but did not attack, its grip on its massive blade tightening then relaxing, as if uncertain. Help you? Perhaps I can. Yoda continued. The Force flows through all living things. Your pain, unnecessary it may be. Slowly, Yoda raised his hand, reaching out through the Force to touch the mind of the creature before him. What he found there shook even the ancient Jedi Master. Centuries of torment, isolation, and hatred, layered upon a foundation of royal blood and betrayal. Morgott, Yoda whispered, the name coming to him through the Force connection. The Omen King, hidden your true identity you have. The creature, Morgott, recoiled as if struck. How dare you speak that name? He hissed, his voice surprisingly articulate despite his monstrous appearance. Who are you to peer into my mind, little beast? One who sees your worth beyond the horns that mark you, Yoda replied simply. One who understands that greatness comes not from bloodlines or blessings, but from choices made and hardships overcome. Morgott lowered his blade slightly. Pretty words, but words cannot change what I am, what all my kind are, cursed, reviled, hidden away beneath the capital we guard, yet may never truly serve. Change the past, words cannot, Yoda acknowledged, but illuminate a different path forward they might. The Golden Order that branded you abomination, perfect is it? Worthy of your undying loyalty, is it? For a long moment Morgott was silent, his misshapen features unreadable. Then he spoke, his voice lower, almost thoughtful. You seek entry to the capital. Why? Understanding, Yoda answered. Of the Elden Ring, of the greater will, of the suffering that pervades this land. Help end it, I would, if possible. Morgott's laugh was bitter. Countless Tarnished have made similar claims, little one. All have failed, all have died. What makes you different? Attached to outcomes, I am not, Yoda said. Serve the Force I do, not ambition, power I do not seek. The Omen King studied Yoda for what seemed an eternity, then stepped aside, gesturing to the breach in the wall with his massive blade. Enter then, but know this, I will be watching. Prove false your words of peace and understanding, and my blade will find you, no matter where in the capital you hide. Yoda bowed respectfully. Expect nothing less, I would. Gratitude for your wisdom and mercy, I offer. As they passed through the breach, Blade leaned down to whisper to Yoda, I have never seen an Omen show mercy or reason. What did you do to him? Saw him I did, Yoda replied simply. Truly saw him perhaps for the first time in his long existence, powerful that can be. The tree sentinel followed silently, but Yoda sensed growing turmoil within the night. The encounter with Morgoth had disturbed him, another crack in the foundation of his belief in the absolute righteousness of the Golden Order he served. Inside Lendel's walls, the true majesty of the capital revealed itself. Golden spires reached skyward, intricate architecture displayed the height of civilization, and statues of heroes and gods lined broad avenues. But beneath the splendor, Yoda sensed decay, physical and spiritual. This was a society clinging to past glory while present reality crumbled around it. To the Erdtree sanctuary we must go, Yoda decided. The heart of this realm's power it is. The sanctuary is guarded by the strongest knights in the land, Blade warned, and beyond them sit the two fingers, interpreters of the greater will itself. Face them we must, if answers we seek, Yoda replied, his resolve firm. Too long has this land suffered under forces that claim divinity, yet deliver only stagnation. Balance there must be. Choice there must be. As they made their way deeper into Lendl, navigating through side streets and hidden passages to avoid patrols, Yoda felt a growing certainty. The Force had brought him to this realm for a purpose. The suffering of its people, the manipulation by cosmic entities, the perversion of natural order, all of it resonated with challenges the Jedi had faced before. But unlike those previous conflicts, here Yoda stood alone, without the Jedi Council to consult, without the Republic to serve. Here he had only his own wisdom, accumulated over 900 years, to guide him. And perhaps, he reflected, watching the tree sentinel and Blade cautiously collaborate to clear a path forward, that was exactly what this broken land needed. Not another lord seeking power, but a teacher seeking truth. The great doors of the Erdtree sanctuary loomed before them, golden and imposing. Beyond lay the representatives of the greater will, and Yoda hoped answers to the questions that had brought him across the stars to this suffering land. "Ready, are you?" he asked his companions. The tree sentinel planted his halberd firmly, a gesture of commitment. Blade drew his great sword, moonlight gleaming along its edge. "For better or worse," the Wolf Knight said, "we stand with you, Jedi Master. May your wisdom guide us through what lies ahead." Yoda nodded, his hand moving to the lightsaber at his belt. "Then begin. Let us, the next chapter of this journey, may the Force be with us all." The crimson sky erupted with lightning as Yoda stood before Lendel's grand entrance, his lightsaber illuminating the rain-slicked stones. The capital's imposing walls loomed above him, a testament to a civilization that had reached impossible heights before its fall. 9 days of exploration had led him here, to the very heart of the Erdtree's domain. "The center of suffering this is," Yoda whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm. "The source of imbalance I must confront." The Lendl knights stationed at the entrance turned their golden helms toward the diminutive figure. Their postures stiffened as Yoda approached, the strange green being unlike anything they had encountered in their centuries of vigilance. "Hold, Tarnished!" one called out, lowering his spear. "None may enter the capital by decree of Queen Marika." Yoda paused, studying the knights through the Force. Unlike the mindless horrors he had faced thus far, these warriors retained fragments of purpose, of duty. Their souls were tethered to ancient oaths that transcended even the shattering. "Not tarnished, am I?" Yoda replied calmly. "A visitor from beyond your stars. Seek audience with your rulers, I do." The knights exchanged glances, confusion evident in their rigid postures. Yoda sensed their uncertainty. A being who was neither tarnished nor of any known race in the lands between presented a circumstance their orders had not prepared them for. "Enter, you shall allow me," Yoda said, raising his three-fingered hand in a subtle gesture. "Harm to none I bring." The knights' postures relaxed slightly, their wills bending to the gentle persuasion of the Force. "You may enter," the lead knight said slowly. "But know that the two fingers watch all who walk these hallowed streets." Yoda nodded and proceeded through the massive gates. As he ventured deeper into the capital, he witnessed the true extent of the realm's decadence. Grand buildings of marble and gold stretched toward the Erdtree, yet most stood empty or housed only the hollow remnants of their former inhabitants. The streets were patrolled by knights who maintained order with brutal efficiency, cutting down any who showed signs of the scarlet rot or other corruptions. Through the Force, Yoda perceived the layers of history embedded in the very stones. Countless civilizations had risen and fallen here, each building atop the ruins of the last. The weight of time pressed down upon this place like nowhere else in the lands between. "Master Yoda," a familiar voice called from an alleyway. Melina stepped out of the shadows, her violet eye gleaming with an inner light. You've come far since our parting at the Church of Ella. Found answers, have you? Yoda asked. Some, she replied, falling into step beside him. The Golden Order is fracturing from within. Morgoth, the last true king, holds court in the Erdtree sanctuary, but his authority wanes. The fingers grow desperate as their connection to the greater will fades. Yoda nodded thoughtfully. Desperate powers, dangerous they become. To the heart of this realm, take me. Melina led Yoda through winding streets and hidden passages, avoiding the heaviest concentrations of guards. They climbed ever upward toward the massive trunk of the Erdtree that dominated the skyline. The Queen's bedchamber lies at the summit, Melina explained as they ascended a grand staircase. But none have entered since Marika was imprisoned. The way to the Erdtree itself is sealed by thorns of light that burn any who approach. Sealed deliberately it was, Yoda observed. Contain something it must. Their path eventually brought them to the Erdtree sanctuary, a vast cathedral-like space where golden light filtered through stained glass, casting prismatic patterns across the marble floor. At its center sat a figure on a throne, tall and regal, crowned with horns, yet bearing the unmistakable signs of the same curse that afflicted many in this realm. Morgoth the Grace-Given, Melina whispered, last king of Leyndell. The king's head turned slowly toward them, his eyes glowing with inner fire beneath his crown. Foul Tarnished, he growled, rising to his full height. In search of the Elden Ring, his gaze fixed on Yoda. Emboldened by the flame of ambition. No ambition for power, have I? Yoda replied calmly, stepping forward. Come to understand I have, to help, if possible. Morgoth laughed bitterly, drawing a blade of pure light from his side. Countless warriors have I felled, countless lies have I heard, all covet the power of the ring whether they admit it or no. The Force my ally is, Yoda replied, igniting his lightsaber. The green blade hummed with energy, casting its own light to mingle with the golden glow of Morgoth's weapon. But fight you, I need not. Morgoth hesitated, studying the strange weapon. In that moment of uncertainty, Yoda reached out through the Force, touching the king's mind. What he found there was not madness, but profound sorrow, centuries of duty, of holding together a realm that insisted on tearing itself apart. Your pain, I feel, Yoda said softly. Your duty, I respect, but another path there may be. The king's blade wavered. There is no path but endurance, he said, his voice suddenly weary. The greater will has abandoned us, yet still we must uphold its order, lest something worse take root. Help me understand this greater will, Yoda said, deactivating his lightsaber as a show of good faith. And what became of Marika, your queen? Morgoth's posture slumped slightly. He lowered his blade but did not dispel it. You are different from the others, he admitted. Not tarnished, not of this realm at all. Perhaps, he gestured to Melina. Explain to him what we face, Finger Maiden. I will allow this discourse, though I know not why. Melina stepped forward, her expression solemn. The greater will is an outer god that established order in these lands through Marika and the Elden Ring. When Marika shattered the ring, she was imprisoned within the Erdtree, and the lands between began to decay. Many seek to repair the ring, Morgoth added, to become Elden Lord and restore order, but they understand not what they meddle with. The ring's fragments, great runes, corrupt all who hold them. Yoda closed his eyes, extending his senses toward the massive Erdtree. Through the Force, he perceived an immense presence within, not living yet not dead, suspended between states of being. Your queen, imprisoned she remains, but imprisoned by whom? By the greater will itself, Morgoth replied, as punishment for her betrayal. Yoda's eyes snapped open. Saw this, did I, in my meditations, a war between gods with mortals as their pawns. Familiar this pattern is, throughout many worlds. A heavy silence fell over the sanctuary. Morgoth studied the diminutive Jedi Master with growing curiosity. What manner of being are you, to speak of many worlds? A Jedi Master I am, guardian of peace and knowledge in a distant galaxy, brought here by the Force, I was, for purpose yet unclear? Morgoth's eyes narrowed. And what would this Jedi do with the knowledge I provide? Seek balance, Yoda replied simply. The natural order of things, disrupted it has been, not just by Marika's actions but before. The greater will itself, an intruder it may be. The king's expression darkened. Blasphemy, he whispered, though without conviction. And yet, a tremendous rumble shook the sanctuary, sending dust cascading from the vaulted ceiling. The stained glass windows trembled in their frames, and the very air seemed to pulse with energy. The Erdtree stirs, Morgott said, alarm evident in his voice. Something approaches from beyond the thorns. Melina's eye widened. The frenzied flame! It must have found another vessel. Yoda felt a massive disturbance in the force, a chaotic, consuming presence that devoured everything in its path. What is this flame? Another outer god, Melina explained hurriedly. One that seeks not order but absolute chaos, the end of all differentiation. It would burn the world to ash and merge all consciousness into one maddened whole. Face it, we must, Yoda declared, reigniting his lightsaber. King Morgott, a temporary alliance, I propose. Morgott stood silent for a long moment, then nodded once, grimly. So be it. Few remain who can defend these halls. My siblings are scattered or fallen. The knights are too few. He raised his sword. For Leyndell, then, for what remains of order. Together they rushed from the sanctuary toward the massive roots that formed a bridge to the higher reaches of the Erdtree. As they climbed, the air grew thick with golden pollen that swirled in chaotic patterns, responding to some unseen disturbance. They reached a vast arena encircling the Erdtree's trunk. At its center, a barrier of golden thorns blocked the way inward, but the barrier was failing, cracking like glass as something pushed from within. "It comes," Melina whispered, drawing a blade of her own. The lord of frenzied flame, the thorns shattered in a blinding explosion of light. From within emerged a figure that might once have been human, but now served as little more than a vessel. Its flesh crawled with burning fissures, leaking yellow flame from 1,000 wounds. Its eyes were gone, replaced by burning pits that seemed to stare into realms beyond mortal comprehension. "May chaos take the world," the figure roared, its voice a cacophony of countless screaming souls. "May all that divides and distinguishes melt away." Waves of frenzied flame rolled outward, scorching the ancient stone. Yoda raised his hand, creating a barrier with the force that diverted the flames around them. "Strong in the dark side this entity is," Yoda observed, "consumed by it entirely." Morgott charged forward, his sword of light leaving golden traces in the air. "Defiler, you shall not pass!" The king struck with centuries of skill behind each blow. But the frenzied lord merely absorbed the impacts, the wounds sealing with crawling flame. With a casual gesture it sent Morgott flying backward, his royal armor charring at the edges. Yoda leapt into action, his small form becoming a blur of movement, his lightsaber carved through the corrupted flesh of the frenzied lord, who howled with 1,000 voices as the plasma blade cauterized its wounds, temporarily preventing the flame from healing them. "Different you are," the entity said, suddenly focusing its burning gaze on Yoda. "From beyond our reach, untouched by the fingers, you will be the first to join us in the new oneness." It lunged with unexpected speed, grasping for Yoda with hands that dripped liquid fire. The Jedi Master evaded, but felt the scorching heat as it passed within inches of his face. "Join you I will not," Yoda replied, gathering the force around him. "Seen many like you I have, consumed by power, destroying what you cannot control." With a gesture, Yoda lifted massive fragments of stone from the arena floor, hurling them at the frenzied lord. The entity shattered them with bursts of flame, but the assault provided cover for Melina to dart in, her blade striking at vulnerable points. "The flame cannot be extinguished," she called to Yoda, "only contained or redirected?" Yoda nodded in understanding. He reached deep into the force, sensing the patterns of energy that flowed through this place. The Erdtree itself was a conduit, not just for the greater will, but for all energies in the lands between, and at its heart. "Marika," Yoda whispered. "The key she is." Even as the battle raged, Yoda closed his eyes, projecting his consciousness toward the heart of the Erdtree. Through layers of wood and light, he sensed her, suspended in the heart of the tree, a being both divine and mortal, shattered yet whole. "Queen of this realm," Yoda projected his thoughts toward her. "Hear me, you must. Your people in danger they are." For a moment there was no response. Then faintly, "Who speaks? None have reached me since the shattering." "A visitor from distant stars," Yoda replied. "The frenzied flame threatens all. Help us, you must." A wave of sorrow washed over the connection. "I am imprisoned, broken, the ring is shattered, and with it, my power." "Not all power comes from external sources," Yoda told her. "Within you, strength still remains, the strength of choice." As Yoda maintained this connection, Morgott and Melina fought valiantly against the frenzied lord. The king's armor was blackened, his movements slowing as wounds accumulated across his body. Melina darted in and out of the fray, her blade causing momentary distractions but inflicting little lasting damage. "Futile!" the entity roared. "All returns to the one flame." Yoda opened his eyes, returning his focus to the battle. Distracted we must, he called to his allies. A plan I have. The ancient Jedi Master raised both hands, channeling the Force in a way he rarely attempted. The very air seemed to warp around the frenzied Lord as Yoda created a containment field, similar to those used to imprison Sith artifacts in the Jedi Temple. What is this? The entity howled, its flames lashing against invisible barriers. This power is not of this realm. Hold it, I cannot for long. Yoda strained, the effort evident in his voice. Morgott, your blade. Strike at the Erdtree's thorns. Melina, with me. The king did not question, summoning the last of his strength to attack the remaining golden thorns that blocked the path deeper into the Erdtree. His blade of light carved through them, creating a narrow passage. Now! Yoda commanded. With a final surge of Force energy, he pushed the contained frenzied lord toward the opening. Melina understood instantly, rushing forward to help guide the entity inward. Together, they forced the Lord of Frenzied Flame through the passage into the heart of the Erdtree. Yoda followed immediately behind, Melina and Morgott close after. Inside, they found themselves in a realm of pure golden light. Suspended in the center was a figure, or rather two figures merged as one. A woman and man, back to back, crucified on invisible hooks. Marika and her consort Radagon, two aspects of the same being. Before them floated the frenzied lord, momentarily disoriented by the pure order that pervaded this inner sanctum. Marika! Yoda called out. The moment this is. Choice you have. The queen's eyes opened slowly, focusing first on Morgott. My son, she whispered. You remained faithful. Mother, Morgott replied, his voice thick with emotion. I have kept your city, though all else falls to ruin. Marika's gaze shifted to the frenzied lord, then to Yoda. I see now another power from beyond the stars, like the greater will, like the frenzied flame. Have you come to claim my realm as well, little one? No, Yoda replied simply. To help restore balance, I have come. Neither order nor chaos should reign supreme. Both lead to suffering when taken to extremes. Marika's expression softened. Balance. I sought that once, before the greater will claimed me as its vessel, before I became both god and prisoner. The frenzied lord recovered from its confusion, flames surging outward. All gods will fall, all divisions will end. The flame will consume all. Yoda turned to face the entity. Perhaps right you are, perhaps end, all things must. But not today, and not by your flame. Drawing deeply on the Force, Yoda reached out to Marika, offering his strength. The Elden Ring, shattered it was by your hand. Reforged it can be with proper purpose. Marika's eyes widened. The ring was a chain. I broke it to free us all. And yet structure some worlds need, Yoda replied gently. Not chains, but framework. Not control, but guidance. Understanding dawned in Marika's ancient eyes. With tremendous effort, she pulled against her bindings. Golden light flowed from her form, coalescing into fragments that orbited her body, the broken shards of the Elden Ring. I cannot destroy the flame, she said, nor can I banish the greater will, but perhaps I can bind them, create balance between opposing forces. The frenzied lord lunged toward her, sensing her intent. You will burn with all the rest, Yoda intercepted with his lightsaber, the green blade sinking deep into the entity's chest. Focus, my queen, complete your work, you must. Morgott and Melina joined the defense, their blades of light forming a barrier between the frenzied lord and Marika. The entity howled and thrashed, but could not break through their combined defense. Above them, the fragments of the Elden Ring began to spin faster, rearranging themselves into new patterns, no longer a perfect circle, but an intertwining spiral that allowed for both structure and change, both order and transformation. I understand now, Marika said, her voice growing stronger. Not domination of one force over others, but balance between all. This is what the lands between require. The new configuration of the ring pulsed with blinding light. From its center emerged tendrils of power that wrapped around the frenzied lord, containing its chaotic energies without extinguishing them completely. A place for all forces there must be, Yoda nodded approvingly. Even those we fear. The entire Erdtree shuddered as the new Elden Ring took form. The golden light that had permeated the tree began to shift, incorporating streaks of other colors, silver, blue, crimson, and even the yellow-orange of the frenzied flame, all in careful balance. Marika's bindings dissolved as she claimed her position as interpreter rather than enforcer of cosmic will. She floated gently to the ground, standing tall before them. What you have shown me, Jedi Master, she said to Yoda, is that even gods must learn and grow. The greater will sought stasis. The flame seeks dissolution, but life requires both continuity and change. The contained frenzied lord had grown quiescent, its energies now channeled into the new ring as one voice among many, rather than a consuming conflagration. Return to the outer world we should, Yoda suggested. Much healing needed it is. Together they emerged from the Erdtree's heart. The skies above Lendl had cleared, the perpetual golden haze replaced by natural sunlight. Far below, throughout the capital, citizens looked up in wonder at the transformed Erdtree, its branches now shimmering with a rainbow of energies in delicate equilibrium. "It is done," Marika announced, her voice carrying across the land. "The age of fracture ends, the age of balance begins." In the days that followed, Yoda walked the changing lands, observing the gradual healing that spread outward from the Erdtree. The mindless violence that had afflicted many creatures diminished, though did not disappear entirely, for conflict, too, had its place in the natural order. Melina found him atop a cliff overlooking Limgrave, near the spot where he had first arrived in this realm. "The two fingers have fallen silent," she reported, their purpose fulfilled, or perhaps rendered obsolete by the new order. Expected this was," Yoda nodded. "Messengers they were, not masters. When the message changes, new forms are needed." "And what of you, Master Yoda?" Melina asked. "Will you stay among us?" "Many would seek your wisdom in this new age." Yoda smiled gently. "My own realm, calling to me it is. Finished, my task here is." "How can you be certain?" she pressed. "The lands between have never known true balance. Your guidance could be invaluable. Find their own path. All worlds must," Yoda replied. "Impose my understanding I should not. Guide I might, but only briefly. The true path, discovered by its own people, a world must." He closed his eyes, reaching out through the Force. The disturbance that had drawn him here had calmed significantly. The Force flowed more naturally throughout the lands between now, neither rigidly controlled nor chaotically dispersed. "Time to return it is," he said finally. Melina nodded in understanding. "How will you go?" "The same way I arrived." Yoda settled into a meditation posture. "Through the Force, all things are connected. Found my way here, I did. Find my way home, I shall." As Yoda deepened his meditation, he felt the presence of others gathering around him. Morgoth had come, standing with quiet dignity. Marika herself appeared, her form now whole rather than divided, the new Elden Ring hovering at her back like a cosmic halo. "The cosmos is wider than any of us knew," Marika said softly. "Greater wills and outer gods, and now, Jedi? What other forces move beyond our perception?" "Countless worlds, countless forces," Yoda replied, his eyes still closed. "But universal, some truths remain. Balance, compassion, wisdom, these transcend all boundaries." "We will remember," Morgoth promised. "Songs will be sung of the small green master who taught gods the meaning of balance." Yoda chuckled. "Need no songs? I do. Need only that remember the lesson you do." His form began to shimmer slightly, becoming translucent as he surrendered himself completely to the Force. The boundaries between realms thinned around him. "Master Yoda," Melina said quickly, "will we see you again?" His fading form smiled. "In the Force, always connected we are, never truly apart, are those who understand balance." With those words, Yoda vanished from the lands between, leaving behind only a gentle ripple in the Force. Where he had sat, a small sapling had taken root, neither golden like the Erdtree nor burning like the frenzied flame, but a natural green, vibrant with life energy. Marika knelt beside it, touching its tender leaves with wonder. "So much to learn still," she murmured, "so much to understand." "He showed us only the beginning," Melina agreed. "The path we must walk ourselves." As the small group departed, the sapling remained, taking root in the soil of the lands between. In years to come, it would grow into a tree unlike any other in that realm, not a conduit for outside powers, but a natural nexus of the Force itself, a living reminder of balance. And far away across the cosmic void, Master Yoda opened his eyes to find himself once more in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, as if he had never left except for the profound new understanding he carried within him, of gods and rings, and the infinite forms the Force might take across the boundless cosmos. "Much to meditate on I have," he murmured to himself, "much indeed."